Hi there! A special thanks to Felicia Whipple and Carmen Navari for coming up with the inspiration for today's story. Don't forget to drop your unique story ideas in the comments. If yours wins, you'll get to join our special brainstorming group on Discord. So come on, let's turn those ideas into something amazing. Good luck! You know how in those blockbuster movies the protagonist always has this cinematic, awe-inspiring birth story? Like they were born in the midst of a storm or under a shooting star? Well, mine wasn't like that. It was actually quite ordinary. No special effects, no dramatic lighting. I was born into a family that smelled of old money and stiff suits. But Alex, you'd say, that's great! You were born with a silver spoon. Yeah. About that spoon. It always seemed like it was just a bit more polished when it was in Jack's or Liam's mouth. Jack, the firstborn, Mom and Dad's golden boy, and their charismatic heir apparent of the family business, Liam, the brainiac, the Mozart of mathematics. And then there was me, Alex, the other one. We were like the Three Musketeers during childhood, huddled together under the blanket of darkness, our innocent laughter muffled by the grandeur of our mansion. Until Jack started resembling Dad more. Not just in looks, but his ruthless ambition too. Liam, ever the prodigy, buried himself deeper into his books, his silence louder than ever. And me seeing the cracks in the picture-perfect postcard of our family, I was a permanent guest at the family dinner, stuck in an episode of Keeping Up with the Kensingtons. But the director had forgotten to hand me my script. The isolation made me rebellious, gave me a taste for independence. I was the black sheep in a herd of white ones. And honestly, I didn't mind it. What's that they say? You can choose your friends, but you're stuck with your family? Well, in my case, I couldn't even choose my friends. I mean, who wanted to be friends with a third Kensington boy? The one who wasn't Jack, the charismatic, or Liam, the genius. But Alex, you'd ask, didn't you ever try to bridge the gap, bring back the old times? Oh, I did. But each time, it felt like trying to tune an old radio. The static louder than the music, never finding the right frequency. And after a while, you just stop trying. You get used to the static. It becomes a part of your soundtrack. The soundtrack of a wealthy boy born into a family where he didn't belong. But hey, who doesn't love a good underdog tale, right? High school, my teenage haven, and hell. Alex, my mom would always say, get your head out of those books and join your brothers in something real, like business. Oh, how I would protest. Mom, Fitzgerald is real, just as real as any balance sheet Jack's flipping through. No matter how loud I voiced, it felt like talking into the void. Conversations with Jack and Liam were the same, filled with stocks, business plans. Alex, literature isn't gonna pay the bills, man, Jack used to say, to which Liam added, unless you plan to become the next J.K. Rowling. I'd always counter, not all of us want to be corporate sellouts, guys. I thought college would be different, and it was, thanks to Emily. You're the only person who can quote Orwell or crack a lame joke in the same breath, Alex. Then the canon event happened, my parents' death. The reading of the will felt like a punchline to some sick cosmic joke. Everything to Jack and Liam. It's what they would have wanted, Jack said over the phone. Liam just texted, we'll help if you need anything. Life became a balancing act on a tightrope. College, jobs, the pressure was a relentless wave. But Emily was my lighthouse, my sanctuary. We're in this together, Alex, she'd whisper, her hand in mine. Just like Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy. The sea of graduation caps swirled around us like a vortex. In its eye was Emily, her doe eyes wide with surprise. Emily, will you marry me? The affirmation was as immediate as it was joyful. Yes, Alex, yes! We were two stars colliding, a supernova in the making. But as quickly as she had come into my life, she disappeared. I woke up to an empty bed and emptier darkness. She was gone, and with her, a piece of me too. The years rolled on like a poorly written novel, every chapter filled with heartache, unpaid bills, and endless job hunting. The taste of instant noodles and despair became my constant companions. Meanwhile, Jack and Liam grew, prospered, became men of substance and power. Jack's calls were sporadic, but the message remained the same. Come work with us, Alex. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. Not at the cost of my dignity. The invitation to the family gathering arrived unexpectedly, an engraved card bearing the familiar family emblem, a grim reminder of my forgotten roots. In a moment of weakness, or perhaps curiosity, I accepted. Walking into the old mansion felt like stepping into a different life. The echoes of our childhood filled the air, the memories of a simpler time. I turned the corner, and there she was, Emily. Not alone, but standing beside Jack, a little boy cradled in her arms. Their child, the world as I knew it, collapsed. Jack, ever the charismatic, wrapped his arm around me. "It's great to have you back, Alex." His words washed over me, but my focus remained on Emily. The joy in her voice was gut-wrenching as she introduced the child. "Alex, meet little Jack, our son." The words, like icy daggers, sent shivers down my spine. The betrayal was complete. I stormed out of the family gathering, my rage echoing in the hollow corridors. Back in the solitude of my shabby apartment, I stared at my haggard reflection in the mirror. "They've stolen everything from me," I muttered, the fire in my eyes igniting a newfound resolve. I wasn't going to be their victim anymore. I was going to expose them for the frauds they were. My chance for redemption walked into the coffee shop one late night. As I was brewing the last batch of coffee, a woman sauntered in. She had a presence that demanded attention, and she walked up to the counter. Her piercing gaze met mine. "Alex?" she asked, her voice surprisingly warm. "Yeah?" I answered, slightly taken aback. "Do I know you?" Her laughter echoed through the shop. "Not personally. I followed your family's case closely. It's hard to remain anonymous in this town, isn't it?" Her smile faded slightly, replaced by a look of empathy. "Betrayal by your own family is hard. I've been there too." Her name was Sophie. One night, she placed a manila folder in front of me. "I've been investigating your brothers," she confessed. "There are whispers of illegal dealings, and I think I can help you expose them." "How?" I asked, my heart pounding. "By becoming an insider. Join their company, Alex," Sophie suggested. "It'll give you access to the information, a chance to bring them down." The idea was nauseating, but I knew Sophie was right. To dismantle their empire of lies, I had to become a part of it. With Sophie by my side, I was prepared to walk back into the lion's den. At Jack and Liam's company, I was their long-lost prodigal brother, welcomed back with open arms. Each day I'd wear a mask of amicability, working closely with them, all the while uncovering their misdeeds. At night, I'd find solace with Sophie, who became my guiding star. One night, as I was reading through a particularly incriminating document, I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was Emily, her face pale, her eyes rimmed with red. "Alex," she said, her voice low, "we need to talk." We sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of her presence reopening old wounds. "I didn't have a choice, Alex," she began. Her voice, once so familiar, was now a distant echo. "Jack knew about my family's debt. He offered to wipe it clean if I married him." The news was like a punch to my gut. I stood there, stunned. "You still love me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Yes, she responded, tears welling in her eyes. "I always have." Bitter resentment and old affection clashed within me, but there was no time to process my feelings. Suddenly, the intricate web of deception unraveled. In a dramatic turn of events, I was accused of the very crimes I had discovered. Jack's voice echoed in the room as he revealed his master plan. "You served your purpose, Alex. All the questionable transactions, the illegal dealings, they're all in your name." I was blindsided, tricked into a checkmate. Jack and Liam had been 2 steps ahead all along. Their plan, to lure me in and make me their scapegoat. The shock gave way to a grim realization. I was to be the fall guy in their twisted game. The next thing I knew, I was being handcuffed, my protests falling on deaf ears. As they led me away, I felt Sophie squeeze my hand. Her eyes held a promise. She would fight for me. True to her word, Sophie defended me with everything she had. Meanwhile, Emily, laden with guilt, chose to testify against Jack. The court became a battlefield, with revelations, accusations, and pleas of innocence. Jack and Liam, once invincible, were now on shaky ground. Emily's confession and Sophie's relentless defense started tipping the scales in our favor. "Your Honor," Sophie began, her voice strong and steady, "the case is not about unethical business practices. It's about betrayal, manipulation, and an insatiable hunger for power." She turned to me, her eyes filled with determination. "Alex here was used as a scapegoat, a sacrificial lamb offered to cover the misdeeds of his brothers. The evidence against him was planted, a meticulously designed plan to shift blame and evade justice." From the corner of my eye, I saw Emily. She was a bundle of nerves, wringing her hands into her lap. Her name was called, and she stood, visibly trembling. She turned towards me, her eyes meeting mine. It was a silent apology, a plea for forgiveness. "Miss Marshall," Sophie addressed Emily, "can you please recount what you shared with us in your deposition?" Emily nodded, her voice barely audible as she began her testimony. "Jack, he manipulated me. He knew about my family's financial problems and he used it against me." Her gaze shifted to me. "He offered to pay off my family's debts if I If I married him! I felt a bitter satisfaction as I watched Jack's smug expression fade. The courtroom erupted into whispers. Sophie raised a hand to silence them. Your Honor, this is a clear indication of Jack's manipulative tendencies. He didn't hesitate to exploit personal relationships for his benefit. As the courtroom fell into a stunned silence, Sophie turned towards me. Alex, are you responsible for the alleged crimes? Absolutely not, I retorted. I was brought in under the guise of reconciliation, only to be framed for their deeds. The trial continued, a dizzying whirlwind of testimonies, accusations, and revelations. In the end, it was Emily's testimony and Sophie's unwavering defense that tipped the scales. Jack and Liam were sentenced, the sound of the judge's gavel marking the end of their reign. With the sun setting on a tumultuous chapter of my life, I turned to Sophie, gratitude swelling within me. Sophie, I said, holding her gaze, I couldn't have done this without you. Her eyes softened and she squeezed my hand. We fought this battle together, Alex. In the fallout of Jack and Liam's sentencing, I found myself at the helm of the family business. It was an opportunity to wipe the slate clean, to run an ethical business that would have made our parents proud. Together, Sophie and I began rebuilding. Every deal was transparent, every employee valued, every customer respected. Our endeavor wasn't merely about profits. It was about integrity and redemption. One evening, as I gazed out at the city from the office, Sophie joined me. In the dance of city lights, I saw our future, one of hope and resilience. Turning around, I found Sophie watching me, her trust and belief in me my guiding light. Sophie, you've stood by me in my darkest times. You've been my anchor, my guiding star. I can't imagine my life without you. Emotion welled up in her eyes as I dropped to one knee, holding out a ring. Sophie, will you marry me? She smiled through her tears, nodding vigorously. Yes, Alex, she breathed. Yes, I will. Our engagement marked a fresh start. We had weathered the storm together, and now we were ready to build a life together. Just as we were setting up the pieces in our life, Emily walked into the office one day. She looked different, matured by the experiences she'd undergone. Our eyes met, and in them, I saw a depth of regret and longing. Alex, she started, I never got to apologize for everything. I raised a hand to stop her, a small smile playing on my lips. It's in the past, Emily. We've all made mistakes, and we've all paid for them. Let's move on. Emily left that day, but not before wishing Sophie and me happiness. Seeing her go was like closing a book, an old chapter finally put to rest.